Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Last Man Standing. And this week's episode, we're going to take you through the roster that AEW has put together. But before we get into that, we would like to tell you a couple of reasons why we've started this web series. First of all, my brother and I are huge wrestling fans, so that's very important. And second of all, AEW doesn't have a television deal here in India. They have signed with TNT in America and they have signed with ITV in the UK, but they don't have a television deal here in India. And we have a strong and ardent and passionate fan base that we would like to cater to. And AEW is a product that everyone should be aware of. So we want to be the eyes and ears of AEW here in India.
And yeah, India has a huge marketplace for wrestling, and we can see that because WWE did come here in 2016 and 2017 and sold out across both cities for like 15,000 people, and they came back in 96 and in 2002 as well, and did a 3-city tour, which is actually a proof of concept that wrestling works in India and there's a huge marketplace in India for wrestling. But on the flip side, WWE is the only kind of product that people can watch in India because there's nothing else that comes on TV except, TNA had a short stint, but it didn't really catch any fire. And, what we think is that WWE, there should be an alternative for that, for this wrestling fan base that we're trying to cater to. And I think that AEW is a great alternative, and it's way better than WWE in my opinion.
Yeah, we both feel that AEW is a better brand than WWE because their program has a lot more spontaneity to it. They provide can't miss television and they avoid the tried and tested tactic of reserving the most major and their unpredictable matches just for pay-per-views. They provide can't miss television every Wednesday night on Dynamite.
So let's see who AEW has brought on board on their roster.
Welcome everyone. We're going to introduce you to the roster that AEW has put together. And we have to start with Le Champion, Chris Jericho. He's the first ever AEW World Champion, which is history in itself. And also he made history back in the day in WWF when he beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin to become the first ever undisputed champion. So most of you might know him from the WWE days. He's also a master of reinvention, and he made this new move called the Judas Effect, which is a reverse elbow to your face. And his catchphrase has really caught fire, which is a little bit of the bubble. Guys might have seen the video. And also he's formed a faction called the Inner Circle, and those members we'll be introducing to you later on. Also, Chris Jericho is not the current world champion anymore. We'll be revealing that shortly as well.
Moving to rank 2, another legend from Canada, Kenny Omega, who is the king of New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you followed his career, he's a former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, former IWGP United States Champion also. He was also the leader of the Bullet Club, and he was also the first and only non-Japanese professional wrestler to win the G1 Climax, New Japan's Pro Wrestling's premier tournament in 2016. And right now he is the EVP at All Elite Wrestling, and he's handling the women's division. And his catchphrase is goodbye and good night. Bang!
Moving on to another EVP, Cody Rhodes. He is the guy actually behind, a big part of why AEW exists today. And he works really closely with all the other EVPs and Tony Khan behind the scenes. He's a really influential guy in the locker room as well. And so former WWE Intercontinental Champion, NWA World Champion, you guys might know him from his WWE days as Stardust. And fun fact, Goldust is his older brother. And Dusty Rhodes is their father, who's a legend in the business. And his catchphrase, Cody Rhodes' catchphrase is, make him say, Moving on to rank 4, it comes to Jon Moxley, previously known as Dean Ambrose in WWE. And one of the main things about him, he jumped ship from WWE, which is really exciting. And no one expected it. And he debuted on one of their pay-per-views called Double or Nothing. And, so you might known him from his WWE days where he won the Money in the Bank. He's won the WWE World Championship, blah, blah, blah. No one cares because Currently, he is the AEW champion, and he beat Chris Jericho in one of the pay-per-views of AEW. And that's what matters.
Moving on to rank 5, Pac, known as the Bastard for some reason. He is a former NXT champion and he was one of the longest reigning WWE Cruiserweight champions in history. He's from Newcastle and he's currently involved with the storyline with the Lucha Brothers. So look forward to seeing what Pac has to offer in AEW. And then we move on to rank 6, Adam Hangman Page, the youngest member of the Elite. His catchphrase is "Let's do some cowboy shit." He has a devastating finisher called the Deadeye that's put a lot of opponents away. And a fun fact about him is that he's never won a singles championship in his career. He's currently the one half of the World Tag Team Champions along with Kenny Omega. And another fun fact about him is that he used to be a high school teacher. And he only left that in 2016 when his wrestling career really kicked off. Moving on to rank 7, this is a young kid that I'm really excited about. His name is Darby Allin. He debuted in 2015 and his finisher is a coffin drop. And the fact that he only paints half his face, there's an interesting story behind it because when he was young, he was involved in a car accident with his uncle where his uncle died. So he feels like part of him is dead. So that's why he takes a lot of risks in the ring. So he doesn't give a damn if he gets hurt. So it's a pretty unique style of wrestling that he brings to AEW. He is also a former pro skateboarder, which so you get that hardcore style from there. And he lives a straight edge lifestyle. He doesn't drink, smoke or do drugs. He reminds me of a young Sting and Jeff Hardy. So I think he's a future world heavyweight champion for sure.
I think he's a mid-carder at best, but I'll take my brother's word for it. Moving on to Sammy Guevara, ranked number 8, the Spanish God. This is a young and upcoming talent, and Jim Ross himself said that he reminds him of a young Eddie Guerrero, and looks like he's going to live up to that hype. His finisher is this crazy 630 splash from the top rope, quite a high-flying competitor, this one. And he is a part of the Inner Circle, which is Chris Jericho's faction that we were talking about. So he's just one of the members from the Inner Circle. Moving on to rank 9, Jimmy Havoc. This guy is from England, and his catchphrase is "So you can," which is from the gaming world. And he's the longest reigning Progress World Champion. He's actually into hardcore death style matches and is known as the king of the death match, which completely defines his style. And his finisher is also called the Acid Rainmaker, which again fits the bill.
Rank 10, moving on to the big hurt, Jake Hager, who's currently the enforcer of Chris Jericho's group, the Inner Circle. He's a former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And a fun fact about him is that he's actually an undefeated MMA superstar in Bellator. So definitely you won't want to meet him in the street. Moving on to rank 11, MJF. You are looking at the youngest and fastest rising star in the history of pro wrestling, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And he is the very first AEW Diamond Dozen Ring holder. His catchphrase is "I'm better than you and you know it." His finisher is a salt to the earth. And a fun fact about him is that he's a former CZW World Heavyweight Champion, one of the best heels in the business right now, and definitely a future World Heavyweight Champion in AEW.
Moving on to rank number 12, Kip Sabian. He's from England, and his nickname is Super Bad, although a lot of people question what's so bad about him. And his current manager is Penelope Ford, who in real life is actually engaged to him. And she used to manage Joey Janela actually before him, and she betrayed him for Kip. And the fun fact about him is that he wrestled in the first ever singles match for AEW. So he's etched his name in the history books there. Like I said, moving on to Joey Janela, ranked number 13, nicknamed the Bad Boy. He made his debut in 2006, and he's won championships like the House of Glory tag team titles. He also ranked number 160 of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 in 2019, which is a big feat. And moving on to the women's division, we start with Riho. She was the first ever AEW Women's Champion. And fun fact about her, she's been wrestling from the age of 9. She's a Japanese icon, and she's done pretty well for herself. Except she actually lost the women's title to NYLA Rose, the native beast. She is now the current AEW Women's Champion, and she got there by winning the Women's Casino Battle Royal. And a fun fact about her is that she's the first ever transgender wrestler in wrestling history and any wrestling promotion, and that's pretty great.
And rank 3, we have Dr. Britt Baker, who's actually a dentist in real life, so she'll knock your teeth out and then repair them as well. And a fun fact about her is that she's currently dating WWE NXT champion Adam Cole, baby.
And we move on to Awesome Kong. She made her debut in AEW on during Double or Nothing, and when she surprised the AEW world because she comes from the WWE and TNA background. She's been the TNA Women's Champion. She's actually the third woman to enter the Royal Rumble in WWE, and currently wreaking havoc in AEW.
And a personal shout out to some of the other women in the AEW women's division. First one, a young and up and coming Chris Statlander, known as the Alien. She's quite athletic and powerful. Definitely has a bright future. Also, want to give a quick shout out to Big Swole, who has a big future. She can definitely cut a good promo. And Shanna, she's from Portugal, and she's a journeyman with a lot of talent and experience, and definitely deserves this big break that she's gotten. She's super athletic, super talented, and a special shout out to Brandy Rhodes as well. Moving on to the tag team division in AEW, we have got to begin with the best tag team in the world right now. You got that right. I'm talking about the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. These guys are the EVPs at All Elite Wrestling. They're actually handling the tag team division. Their catchphrase is the elite, the elite. Their finisher is the Meltzer driver. They won a lot of tag titles using that maneuver, namely the former Ring of Honor tag team champions, IWGP tag team champions in Japan, former AAA World tag team champions as well. And they were ranked the best tag team of the year by Pro Wrestling Illustrated in 2017 and 2018. Fun fact about the Young Bucks was they wrestled in TNA as Generation Me, and they also appeared in WWE. At least Matt Jackson did, and he was a jobber, which sucks. And also they have their own YouTube show called Being the Elite, which has more than 400,000 subscribers. It's a great show. You guys should really check it out.
Moving on to the Lucha Bros. Cero Miedo, which means no fear, and that's what they're all about because they're high flying as hell, and they never cease to amaze you. They're actually former AAA tag team champions. They've been around in Ring of Honor, etc. as well. Their finisher is the package pile driver, and currently they're teaming up with Pac, as we mentioned earlier, and just going at it. They're really high flying tag team, so look out for them.
And we move on to Private Party, Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. These guys are incredible. They debuted in 2015 and worked the indie wrestling promotions. And the fun fact about them is that they actually beat the number 1 ranked team in AEW, the Young Bucks, in the tag team tournament that took place. The finisher is the Gin and Juice, which is an incredible maneuver that's put away many tag teams. So definitely future tag team champions in the making.
Moving on to SCU. This is the worst town I have ever been in. This consists of Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels and Scorpio Sky. And Frankie and Christopher Daniels have come from TNA, and they've pioneered the X division over there. They're legends in their own right. And Scorpio Sky is an upcoming talent with the SCU. They used to be tag team champions, the first ever AEW tag team champions, in fact. And they lost to a tag team that's not even mentioned on our tag team card. And it's Adam Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, the unlikely tag team who are currently still tag team champions, and lots more to talk about ahead. Moving on to the best friends.
Got to give the people what they want.
So this is their gimmick. They're best friends, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor. It's pretty cool actually. And they have a third best friend, in fact, called Orange Cassidy, whose character is kind of loosely based on Ryan Gosling from Drive. And be sure to check him out. And these guys are also going to go places.
Moving on to a personal favorite of mine, Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz. These guys are part of the Inner Circle. Their finisher is the Street Sweeper, which is a devastating maneuver. And fun fact about them was that they were known as LAX prior to AEW. They were working for TNA, and they're former 4-time Impact World Tag Team Champions, and actually hold the record for most combined days as champions with 662 days. So definitely a legitimate threat in the tag team division. And now, ladies and gentlemen, moving to the Dark Order. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. These gentlemen are not to be trifled with. They're working as a cult currently, and they're recruiting more members. They've been teasing the arrival of the Exalted One. The rumor has it might be Matthew Hardy. We don't know yet. But it's definitely a great storyline and is being played out on AEW television. They're former PWG Tag Team Champions as well. They were known as the Super Smash Brothers. And we definitely want to see who the Exalted One is and what his plans are and what happens with the Dark Order in the future. And then we have the man himself, Mr. Tony Khan, the one who brought all this together. He's the CEO of AEW. He's the man running things, and he is not only running AEW, he's also the owner of Fulham Football Club and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. So he's got a lot on his plate, but he's definitely the man driving AEW. So we would like to thank Tony Khan at this point for bringing hardcore wrestling back to the fans and creating a true alternative. So thank you, Tony. So that was a roundup of the AEW roster so far. Do look out for our next video where we review their very first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. Do subscribe to our channel and do subscribe to AEW. Do show them the love. We've put their social media links in our description below. Do follow us. Do check out our subsequent videos. And as always, we are the last man standing. Signing off.